A straight-A student, a National Merit Scholar, clarinet player, on April 20th, 1990, 17-year-old Christopher Kurz left his home in Eagan, Minnesota, and vanished. No evidence, no trail, no one really looked for him police-wise for a full day. His face was broadcast nationwide in the Runaway Train music video in 1993. And 34 years later, he's just still missing. So this is day one of my Runaway Train video series, a 7-day deep dive into the real children behind the missing posters. We're starting with Christopher, because his case shows exactly what happens when a promising teen disappears, and adults, like police, choose not to act. Christopher Kurz was a brilliant straight A's student, clarinet playing in the school band, National Merit semifinalist, no criminal record, no known drug use, a clean path toward college. On the morning of April 20th, 1990, he told his parents he had a headache. That was fine, abnormal but fine. He stayed home from school. By that evening, ultimately he was gone. His mother found a note on the kitchen table. Mom, something important came up. Plus I'm feeling better. I'll be back by 6, unless they get lost. Underline, underline. Love, Chris. Like I said, the word lost was underlined twice. It was an inside joke between the family members because Christopher apparently had frequently gotten lost while driving. The family dog was also loose in the yard when Mom got home, which had never happened before, so that was pretty strange. And when 6 o'clock came and went, and Christopher didn't return, his mom, Lonnie, called her husband Jim, who was out of town on business at the time. He rushed home, obviously. Around midnight, they called the police, but of course they were told the good old had to wait 24 hours to report him missing. That was false. That's never been the law in Minnesota. It's never been the law in most places in the U.S., and that delay likely cost investigators valuable time. The next day, a letter arrived, postmarked from Duluth. It was allegedly from Christopher, and in it he admitted to faking the headache. He wrote that he had planned to take his own life, and said that he was sorry for the pain he had caused to his family, and he ended with, "Take heart, because if just one person is better off for having known me, my life will have not been wasted." But even then, something didn't feel right. His parents reported a missing shotgun from the home. Alright, par for the course, but the ammo, which was stored separately and he knew about, was untouched. He also withdrew $200 from his savings account, and then his van was found. It was abandoned in the George Washington State Forest. Inside it, the keys and a note identifying the van being his, I'm assuming, from him. Search dogs tracked the scent about a mile into the woods before it ultimately just stopped. A local man said that he had picked up a hitchhiker around that time, headed towards Duluth. And that's the same place the letter was mailed from. So, a friend of Christopher's also said he received strange phone calls for months. The parents also received similar phone calls. No one spoke on the line. There was always background noise, like a party or loud gathering. The police were unable to trace the calls for whatever reason. If I had to guess, it would probably due to them being short, from an unregistered phone, or just the fact that it was 30-some years ago. Payphone, whatever. Other tips placed him in places like Old Orchard Beach, Maine. A hunter later found a shotgun that matched the one that he had taken with him, but nothing could be confirmed. I'm not really sure why, but Christopher was never seen again. In 2004, the police received an anonymous letter, though. It claimed Christopher was still alive, and that he would eventually return, but only when the time was right. The writer called him their guardian angel. So, for obvious reasons, police dismissed it as a hoax, but for Lonnie and Jim, it was another reason to just keep hoping. They moved houses, but they ultimately kept the same phone number, just in case he ever called. In 1993, Christopher's photo, like I said, was shown at the 3-minute and 26-second mark in the music video for Soul Asylum's Runaway Train. The video helped recover 21 missing children, but also faced some backlash after one child was sent back to an abusive home. The other children were allegedly happily reunited. 4 of the 36 are very unclear. 1 is also assumed to not be real, but I found a decent amount of proof that she is or was in fact real. 11 are still verifiably missing, including Christopher. When last seen, Christopher stood 5 feet 11 inches. He weighed 135 pounds. He had brown hair, brown eyes, and cystic acne. He was wearing a light blue acid-wash denim trench coat, a black sweatshirt, Bugle Boy jeans, I think that's how you say it, with knee pockets, white crew socks, brown leather boat shoes, and a zebra-striped Swatch watch. Was carrying his black leather wallet with a Minnesota driver's license inside. Some believe that he went through suicide. Others think he was just trying to escape something. And some believe that because it was 4/20, April 20th, he may have gone to meet up with someone to smoke marijuana or purchase it. Maybe what he used was laced, maybe someone panicked, or some other situation happened that led to the staged notes, and it was just the beginning of a larger cover-up. That's just some discussion on some, Reddits. We may never know. But if you knew Christopher or saw anything in Minnesota or Duluth in April of 1990, please contact the Eagan Police Department or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And if you want more stories like this one, for example, The Rest of the Still Missing, follow me for the rest of the series. And tomorrow we're going to cover another haunting case from the Runaway Train video archive. Don't let these stories fade. They already have one time. Let's not do it again. John Lango was 16 years old when he disappeared from Pottsville, Pennsylvania. And we're not even really sure who he argued with before it happened. Some sources say it was his mom, others say it was his girlfriend, and that if it was the girlfriend, the fight was so bad they ended up not spending New Year's Eve together. So what we do know, John was drinking that night, underage, with friends, presumably at his own house. At some point, he walked out and just ultimately never came back after some sort of altercation. That was in the early morning hours of January 1st, 1988. Some reports say he was last seen wearing jeans, a jacket, and sneakers. That's the official story, but still kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, John didn't run off, he didn't leave town with money, and ultimately his younger brother said that he was the last person to see him getting in a car down the block. Now, there's no details on the car, no plate, and his younger brother says he was the last one to see him as he was going down the block, and that he ultimately got into a car at the end of the block. Now, he was only 10, so he really couldn't tell what kind of car, make, model, but he does know it was a car, not like a pickup or a van. So after I saw some Facebook comments from a family member, I'm not sure if it's his mother or stepmother or what exactly the situation is, but after I saw some Facebook comments, it does seem that the family believes that he called somebody for a ride or to get picked up, whatever you want to call it, before he ultimately exited the house. So no details on whose car, no plate, no driver description. Like I said, the brother's only 10, and I'm not sure if that was ever followed up on publicly or not. So what is crazy, though, is he's still listed as endangered missing, so ultimately the police probably don't think he left town on his own. But you really wouldn't know from the attention that the case has received, at least recently. There's no documentary outside of his photo in the Soul Asylum Runaway Train video. It's also kind of like he just disappeared into the tracks. But his name does still come up around Pottsville. I found a Facebook post that I already referenced about him with several shares, lots of comments, dozens, or close to, amount of people saying they knew him, miss him, wonder what happened to him. Like I said, one comment or more than from this person sounds like it came from someone that lived with him. I've reached out to that person, but no response as of yet. Either way, I'm not stopping there. John was 16. He deserved more than a footnote in a music video. This is day 2 of my Runaway Train series, and we're bringing attention back to the real kids behind those missing posters. Because people who loved him still remember, and someone out there knows more. And if you do, it's time to speak up. I mean, come on guys, if it's possible, let's bring John home. If not, let's find out what happened. Dwayne Foxman was just a 15-year-old boy when he vanished from Lincoln City, Oregon on July 22nd, 1986. Police called him a runaway, but that really doesn't line up with what his family members recall. That day, Dwayne left home to go pick up a paycheck, but ultimately he never made it back, and the paycheck was never really picked up. As far as I'm aware, he was working at some inn. According to sources close to the family, though, Dwayne ended up at a party that night. Possibly with his older sister. He walked out of that house and was ultimately never seen again for sure. Years later, his photo aired in the 1993 Soul Asylum video, Runaway Train, a nationwide plea to help find real missing kids. But still, no answers, no suspects, no closure. And Dwayne wasn't the only one. Several other young men went missing from the same area around the same time. Were these cases like truly unrelated, or were these just really key missed connections? So today I'm sending public records requests to the Lincoln City Police Department specifically related to Dwayne to find out what was actually investigated and what wasn't. I'll be following up with more details on Dwayne and the other missing boys, and ultimately whatever I do uncover in the case files if I receive them. Follow me here for more updates as I dig into deeper cases like this that were just really written off as just another runaway. Wilda Mae Benoit was 14 years old, fresh out of shoulder surgery, so sedated she could barely walk. That night, her uncle says he saw her lying in bed in her room, all normal, still wearing her hospital gown, resting, recovering. By the next morning, she was gone. No one saw her leave, no signs of a struggle, and ultimately no confirmed plan, no outcry and running away. But here's what they did find. Some of her clothes and some of her jewelry were also missing. That detail did kind of make it look like she had planned to leave, and that was enough for police to call her a runaway. Why? Because one friend, who knows how good, told officers that she had talked about wanting to go to Florida. Potentially someday, it's unclear. That was it. No evidence she made it there, no confirmed sightings, no travel plan, just a theory. And it became the entire case. What didn't happen, though, there's no public record that the area was ever really searched beyond just, hey, you out here, boo? No evidence that tracking dogs were brought in, and ultimately no indication that police even canvassed the marshes that are alleged to be around her house. Locals say those marshes are pretty thick, dangerous, ultimately described as unforgiving, full of gators and unstable terrain. One neighbor posted online that ultimately the marsh can take you, and that's what a lot of the neighborhood believes happened. And maybe that's what did happen. Maybe Wildo wandered off, confused from her meds, and just never made it back. Or maybe somebody made it look like she left, but she never really had the chance to. It's been over 30 years, there's still no trace, no body, no justice, just a teenage girl who was alleged to have a much older boyfriend who vanished overnight, and a case that never really got the search it deserved. It does say that her boyfriend didn't leave the area, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't know, but I do know that I'm ZQueen, and I'm doing research into this case. I'm planning to get the records pulled and see what actually was done. If you're interested in the outcome of that, or any other cases like this, definitely give me a follow. Thanks for watching. Martha West Dunn was 15. Eric Glenn Owens was 17. They both vanished from Dangerfield, Texas, less than one day apart in early September of 1990. The official story, they ran away. But people close to the case say that's probably not what happened. Martha was last seen near her family's trailer. A neighbor later claimed she saw what looked like a fresh near the tree line behind their home. But not long after, dump trucks showed up. The police were called, but by the time they got there to investigate, the area had been filled in. Eric also disappeared within 24 hours of Martha. Some believe he was trying to find Martha. Others think he may have known too much. And ultimately, whatever had happened to her happened to him too. There were rumored sightings all over in Arkansas, Oklahoma, even Louisiana, but none have ever been confirmed. No one's been arrested, no one's been found, both teens are still missing. I'm digging through online sources now, trying to find family or local voices who are still searching for answers in these cases. If I do end up making contact, I'll start pulling records and trying to piece together what really happened to these kids. Because this, it doesn't just look like a runaway story. On February 1st, 1990, 13-year-old Andrea Deanne Durham vanished from her family's apartment in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. What makes this disappearance kind of linger in the shadows is the chilling detail of an upright vacuum, mid-cleaning, interrupted, and the house left unlocked, no signs of forced entry. Andrea's mother and sister left her alone for about 2 hours, asking her to vacuum while they were out. When they returned, she was gone. None of her personal belongings were missing, though. The vacuum cleaner just stood frozen in place as if she had simply just stepped away for a moment and never came back. Initially, police treated her case as a runaway, but she'd recently moved and changed schools, and she'd had some minor brushes with the law, including she had to do some community service upcoming for acting as a lookout during a petty theft, good lord. But, family and investigators alike now believe that something darker really happened. A key question that kind of haunts this case is, did she run away or was she taken? The absence of forced entry suggests that she opened the door to someone, possibly someone she trusted or knew or was otherwise expecting. This theory gains weight when we learn that she was connected to the family of a convicted serial killer by the name of Mark Reeby. Reeby, I think I'm saying that right. He was convicted with a man named Alex Wells of murdering Donna Callahan in 1989. He later confessed to dozens of other killings, but then he recanted, of course. And while he's only been actually convicted of one, the police and investigators still consider him to be an alleged serial killer. She was connected to him because she had visited his home multiple times because she was friends with his kids. Now, investigators found it strange because the first time they went to speak with him after she was missing, he was instantly like, I didn't kill her, even though they didn't ask for anything. Why would he volunteer a reason for denial? Adding to the mystery is the police's belief that she remained in the area briefly after vanishing, despite no confirmed public sightings and no confirmed credible leads. There was apparently a sighting of her leaving the apartment alone at 7:30 the night she disappeared that was once listed on the Charlie Project, but was later removed. So that kind of raises even more questions about what police knew and kind of what they had going on back at that time. Look, was she lured away under false pretenses by someone exploiting her trust? Did she step out, expecting to return, literally just a few moments later, maybe to the laundry, snack machine, whatever, only to disappear forever? This case really kind of leaves us with no easy answers, just an unsettling image of a vacuum cleaner left upright, a door left unlocked, and a young girl who just kind of vanished without a trace. If Andrea's story teaches us anything, it's that predators often hide in plain sight, exploiting the very trust that should protect us. And sometimes the smallest details, like a vacuum cleaner frozen mid-task, are the loudest cries for justice. 4 missing kids from the early 90s. Yolanda, Christina, Terry, and Jason. Stories lost to time, but not forgotten. I'm requesting their National Center for Missing and Exploited Children files to see what new clues might surface from those. Here's what we do know. Don't mind my fans. Yolanda Isabel Solis. She went missing from Arlington, Massachusetts. I've got a separate video with her, more full story. Check it out. If you want to know, more detail. Basically, I've been in contact with a school-age friend of hers who shared kind of the full narrative surrounding her going missing. There's alleged contact in 1999 with a mutual friend confirming that she was alive in California and living with 2 sons, but ultimately nothing since. Christina Ann Wood, she was also missing since the early 90s. She had a heart tattoo on her left ankle, despite the fact that she was much under the age of 18. Florida Sun Sentinel reported she was still missing April 1994, so she was definitely not found shortly after the video aired, like most people think. Her case may have been closed later since she turned 18. That was the last post they had, so I'm going to assume so. Terry Denise Bryant vanished in May of 1990 from Nashville, Tennessee. Her case, it really just kind of remains shrouded in mystery. Very little public information. I'm definitely working on that. And lastly, Jason Mario Calazzolo. I spoke to someone who knew Jason from the Macomb County Youth Home, which I'm assuming is the government facility that houses kids in the area. He said that Jason was reportedly into trouble while he was a juvenile. All I found were some traffic tickets from 1995 under his name in a Macomb County court. So that does show that he was still in the system years after going missing. So I think I'm going to call him probably at least found, but maybe not reunited. I am going to be digging for the truth, though, with these official NCMEC records. So definitely just follow for updates. It's the beginning. Sean Betts was just 11 years old when he disappeared in Upland, California back in 1988. That day, he had spent hours at the Pizza Chalet on Foothill Boulevard, hanging out with the owner's son, playing video games or arcade games, whatever you want to call them. Around 9 p.m., he left to walk home alone, or at least so the Pizza Chalet owners say. But years later, a witness did come forward claiming that she saw Sean walking with an unidentified adolescent male. Sean's parents waited up all night, but he never arrived home. His favorite blanket, backpack, and clothes were all still at home. Nothing packed, nothing taken. Look, even an 11-year-old knows to bring something if they plan to run away. Yet, the police immediately labeled him as a robber. That label had devastating consequences. Because of that designation, the police showed, basically no urgency in investigating. They did not launch a full search or issue any sort of widespread alert. No local news covered the case beyond, maybe a small little blurb here and there. For 4 long months, there was almost no official action. Meanwhile, coming up on 4 months, Sean's older brother became a target. Police, convinced that they had to find a culprit, they pressured him relentlessly for a confession. But his alibi was rock solid. They questioned him aggressively. They bullied him. The detective in charge literally refused to entertain any other theories or suspects. Years later, that detective was demoted, but the damage done to the family's reputation and mental health was done. The local community's response was also pretty complicated. Some suspected the Pizza Chalet family, whose son was Sean's last known companion. There was really no evidence other than that implicating them, though. It is believed that they left town shortly after, near that 4 months, due to harassment, racial tensions. They were immigrants, documents unclear, in a largely white, conservative area. Other people noted this hotel across the street from the Pizza Chalet that was known for, shady characters, aka hotel. Who knows, but some people wondered might have that been involved. Adding to the mystery is a chilling story from a man who, after Sean vanished, was smoking out behind the Pizza Chalet, and an older kid approached him and asked him to go to San Diego and to bring a foam rubber pillow. He doesn't know, but that memory was weird to him to this day. Throughout this time, it is known that the day after he went missing, a woman called his school claiming to be his grandmother and saying that he was going to live with her in Washington State. But his grandmother didn't call and she hadn't lived there in years. So why would the captor or someone involved make that call? Was it an attempt to mislead, some sort of desperate message from Sean himself in a brief moment he had? I don't know, but the police failed Sean and his family. They waited months to seriously investigate, allowed a false confession to be coerced from an innocent child in the family, and then dismissed critical leads that could have been something. The community was left with unanswered questions, and the media lost what little interest they did have because of the Runaway label. Even today, Sean's family holds on to hope. There are some experts that say he could theoretically still be alive and unable or unwilling to contact them. His disappearance remains a painful reminder of how a lack of urgency, poor policing, and systemic neglect, really, can turn a missing child case cold and leave a family shattered. This isn't just a story about a lost boy, it's about how justice can ultimately fail, and how assumptions can really blind us. And why we really can't forget cases like this, because this is our history. Just let that sink in. These cases are what led up to how we treat runaways today. This shit is important. This is your next scary story time. But this one isn't just a tale, it's real. In 1992, 17-year-old Byron Eric Page walked to a bus stop in Los Angeles. He was never seen again. No camera footage, no confirmed sightings, no answer, still more than 30 years later. The day before he disappeared, Byron was reportedly riding around LA with his mom, practicing for his driver's test. I mean, he had just come back from a ski trip, he still had money saved left over from that, and college acceptance letters waiting for him at home. More than one. He was a writer, he was a soccer player, an honor student. And just like that, he was gone. On the morning of January 29th, he told a friend that he was going to go visit a music warehouse, supposedly in West Hollywood, some people say north, about 20 miles from home. He ultimately walked to his usual bus stop, but the bus driver doesn't ever remember picking him up. Of course, that's whenever they did ask. And no one at the warehouse remembered seeing him there either, even though he was supposedly a regular. Police were called that night, but if you've watched my cases before, at the time, 17-year-olds weren't treated as urgent cases. I don't know who was, but it wasn't them either. They were just told to wait, so they did. This is a scary story time for sure, but it is the kind that sticks in your gut instead of like jumping out from the dark. Byron's parents drove the streets. They went and had flyers printed. I mean, they called everybody in his phone book, contacted all his friends, classmates, his clothes, comic books, that money that he had left over from the ski trip, they were all still in his room. Literally, none of this made sense. Some people think that maybe he walked into the wrong neighborhood. He was supposedly wearing all blue and white jacket, blue baseball cap, colors associated with a local crew or gang or whatever you want to call them. If you were in the wrong area at the wrong time, just wearing the wrong thing could ultimately put you in danger. And others think it wasn't local trouble though, but something even deeper. The early 90s in LA were known for like massive corruption in the police department. Byron may have seen something or someone that he was never supposed to. It took over a decade for his name to even be entered into the National Missing Persons databases. I mean, that didn't happen until a CNN journalist asked about the case in like the mid-2000s. His profile finally went up on NamUs more than 10 years too late. And another scary story time is where the system really just looked the other way. Byron Eric Page was 17 when he disappeared. Today, he'd be 50. No one has ever come forward with any type of real answers. But, I mean, in case anyone watching this does know anything, contact the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, because, I'm gonna be honest with you, this story is not over. And it's time that someone finished it. Alright, so here's where we stand with the Runaway Train series. We've now covered every case from the music video except two, and here's the breakdown of why. Thomas Gibson. His father was charged and convicted of manslaughter in his case, even if the jail time was barely anything, basically a joke. The case is technically closed. Kimberly Doss. Her case is still very active. I'm currently working on coordinating with the family's advocate if the family approves, and even when they do, we'll release that story together when the timing's right. I've also already published a write-up on Yolanda Solis over on my blog, but I'm still waiting on official records, either to confirm that she did in fact exist, or to clear up whether she was a placeholder. Obviously, I feel as though she did exist based on who I've talked to, but I just want solid facts. And then there's Dwayne Faulkman. I filed a records request for his case as part of like a much bigger investigation into disappearances along the Oregon coast. And that is going to be my featured case next week. Lastly, we are working on a request from a new follower, the Springfield 3. And I am going to be doing a deep dive into that very soon. Thank you for watching the long-form version of the Runaway Train series. It's been like a long, almost 2-week project for me, and there is still some ongoing as I discussed, but I appreciate you following through.